The movie opens in 1865 in a remote part of England, where we see Catherine and Alexander's wedding. Alexander is much older than Catherine and comes from a wealthy background. That evening, a mate called Anna prepares Catherine for her first night and asks if she's nervous. But Catherine replies she's extremely nervous shortly after Alexander enters the room and asks if she's comfortable with everything. He then instructs her that she's not allowed to leave the house. But Catherine objects because she enjoys being outdoors. However, Alexander dismisses her words and orders her to remove her nightgown. After observing Catherine, he switches off the light and goes to bed with no intention of making love to her. In the following days, Catherine's life becomes tedious and dull because she's not permitted to leave the house. One evening during dinner, Catherine feels very tired and decides to go to sleep. However, her father-in-law Boris approaches her and tells her that she needs to stay awake and wait for Alexander. He then orders Anna to make sure that Catherine doesn't fall asleep. Sometime later, Alexander enters the room drunk and orders Anna to leave. He then demands Catherine remove her nightgown and face the wall. After that, he pleasures himself while looking at her and goes to sleep. The next day at breakfast, Borson informs Catherine that Alexandra left to attend a coal mine disaster. He informs Catherine that he'll also be leaving for London for a few weeks. Boris hopes that Catherine can restore his strength during this time and give Alexandra an heir when he returns. After he leaves, Catherine takes advantage of her freedom to go on a walk and breathing in some fresh air. One afternoon, Catherine wakes up from a nap when she hears some commotion in the distance. She goes to the servants' quarters and discovers that some farm workers have stripped and naked and hung her in a sack. However, a worker named Sebastian informs her that they were just weighing her angrily. Catherine scolds everyone to face the wall and quickly pulls Anna down. She then asks the servant how much she should weigh, after which Sebastian comes forward and lifts her. However, she pushes him to the ground and informs everyone that her husband does not pay them to waste their time. Later, Catherine asks Sana what Sebastian's name is implying that she's attracted to him. The next day, Catherine goes for another walk, and Sebastian yells at her asking if she's lost, but she smiles and ignores him. That evening, Catherine hears a knock on her door, and when she opens it, Sebastian tells her that he's bored. He then tries to force his way into her room, while she tries to resist them. Sebastian eventually overpowers her and kisses her forcibly, causing Catherine to bite him. However, moments after, she also succumbs to her desires and the two eventually engage in passionate lovemaking. The next morning, when Anna tries to wake Catherine up, she is surprised to see her naked in bed. Later, we see Catherine and Sebastian making love again. Days later, the local priest arrives at the house and queries Catherine about her absence from church. He then tells her not to roam outdoors, and Catherine looks over at Anna, realizing that she must have revealed her secrets later, and it goes to pick mushrooms and meet Sebastian, who's walking the dog. She then hints to Sebastian that she's aware of their affair by saying that Alexander would be upset if he finds out what's going on in his absence. In response, Sebastian gives her a weary look and says he'll look into it that evening, while Catherine and Sebastian make love again. Anna notices through the people, but when Sebastian appears to be looking straight at her, she immediately flees. Days later, Anna awakens Catherine by informing her that Boris has returned. Although he won't be back till dinner since he went to the fields that evening during dinner, Boris wonders where Alexander is, but Catherine says she has no idea. Hearing this, he orders Anna to fetch a vintage bottle of wine, but no surprise to see that Catherine has finished it all. Boris demands that Anna explain where the drink went, but she's too afraid to confess the truth. He then humiliates her and demands her to kneel, saying that if she acts like an animal, he'll treat her like one. Meanwhile, Catherine just watches this with amusement since she doesn't care about Anna at all. Soon, Boris learns about Catherine and Sebastian's affair, so he goes to where Sebastian is sleeping and cruelly beats him before locking him up. When Catherine finds out about this, she becomes enraged and insists that Boris release Sebastian immediately, but he calls her a disgrace to his family. On top of that, Boris states that he isn't going to see her again until he figures out what he'll do with her. Catherine, on the other hand, claims that she's nothing to be ashamed of and demands that Sebastian be released. This only enrages Boris further, and he calls Catherine a failure for not giving Alexander a son, Catherine, then angrily claims that Alexander is the one who makes that impossible, provoking Boris to slap her. The next morning, while they're having breakfast, Boris scolds Catherine again and goes to his room. She then places a chair at his door, so the old man couldn't open it and get out. Then she invites Anna to join her at the table and eat, saying she dislikes eating alone. Suddenly, Boris begins shouting and trying to come out, but when Anna tries to help him, Catherine stops her moments later when he stops his cries for help. Catherine tells Anna to go to town and find a dog. After so, Anna rushes off. In the meantime, Catherine heads to see Sebastian and frees them. When No returns with the doctor, it's too late for Boris since he's already dead. Anna is terrified by this event and goes mute due to witnessing a cold-blooded murder. The next day, Alexander sends a telegram apologizing and stating that he will not attend the funeral since he never liked his father. After the funeral, Catherine takes control of the household and dresses Sebastian in new clothes. She then tells Anna that she'll have another servant prepare dinner for them because she no longer trusts her later and is shown intensely beating the dough, and the other main advices are not to blame herself since Boris was old and it might have been bad mushrooms. Meanwhile, Catherine expresses her deep feelings for Sebastian, but he's worried that Anna may reveal the relationship to others. She assures them that Anne has lost her voice and will be unable to speak again. Days later, Catherine sleeping with Sebastian when she hears a commotion and notices her husband's horse from the window. Alarmed by this, she rushes Sebastian and hides them in their closet. When Alexander arrives, he wonders why she's still awake, to which she replies that the horse interrupted her sleep, just that he notices a belt and becomes suspicious. But Catherine explains that she found it on the farm and uses it to hold her dress. She then pours some tea and Alexandra informs her that she's gotten fat and lustful in his absence. He claims that her actions have not gone unnoticed and that word has spread throughout the county about her affair. Alexander says that this caused him a great deal of shame and starts calling her vile and vulgar names. However, Catherine is not intimidated by this, and she unlocks the closet door and invites Sebastian inside. She then proceeds to make love with Sebastian. Alexander also doesn't take long to step up and slug Catherine. He then gets into a brawl with Sebastian, and during their fight, Catherine strikes Alexander with a metal rod. She relentlessly and viciously hits his head till he collapses after she's done. She tries to kiss Sebastian, but he's still stunned and terrified by what's just happened soon after Sebastian buries Alexander's body in the woods, while Catherine kills the horse and partially buries it after this incident. Sebastian claims he can't sleep because the picture of Alexander handsome Catherine, on the other hand, assures them that if they hadn't killed him, he would have taken his life, and that they did it so they could stay together. The next morning, Sebastian dresses up as the lord of the house and sits at Catherine's table. A few days later, a woman named Agnes arrives at the house and informs Catherine that Alexander had slept with her daughter and fathered a boy named Teddy. Catherine is skeptical, but Agnes tells her that she has documents proving her words. After much deliberation, Catherine agrees to keep Agnes and Teddy in the house. Sebastian is enraged because he now has to leave the mansion and suggests to Catherine that the woman may be lying, but Catherine tells them that they have valid documentation. Sebastian feels confused about how Alexander was able to have a child with someone else when he never touched Catherine. Days later, Catherine is shocked to learn that she's pregnant with Sebastian's child. She tries to inform Sebastian about it on several occasions, but she always fails since he's frightened of being seen by Agnes and Teddy. However, she's become close to Teddy, who thinks she's beautiful and enjoys playing with her. The two then spend a long night chatting and having fun in the fields, which annoys Sebastian. He runs across Anna in the woods one day and asks to join her. Anna is instantly terrified, but she eventually allows him to walk with her. One day, while Catherine is playing with Teddy, she noticed that Sebastian and desperately tries to talk with them. However, when Teddy keeps bugging her to play with them, she scolds the boy and leaves. Due to this, Teddy gets upset and runs into the woods alone. Later, Catherine discovers that Teddy's gone missing, causing everyone in the house to search for the child. However, Sebastian finds them near a waterfall and carefully walks behind him. That evening, Catherine and Agnes are worried as Teddy's still missing. Just then, Sebastian brings the boy into the house who's unconscious due to the cold. He starts telling them to get blankets for the boy. Agnes demands he leave the house since he's a nobody who simply orders people what to do. Afterwards, Sebastian informs Catherine that he doesn't want to stay to be humiliated because of the child. She promises she'll do whatever he wants and begs him not to leave. Sebastian then admits that it's too late because he had Teddy in front of the waterfall, which would have been an ideal place to end him, but he couldn't. Catherine assures them that it's not too late and asks them to trust her. Following this, Catherine approaches Agnes and persuades her to sleep by promising to keep an eye on Teddy after Agnes leaves. Catherine lets Sebastian and the two of them suffocate the boy with a pillow. Sebastian is shaken by what they've just done, while Catherine stays in the chair crying or pretending to cry. In the morning, Anna enters the room and is shocked to discover that the boy has died. When the doctor arrives, Catherine claims that she must have dozed off for 10 minutes, and then when she woke up, the boy wasn't breathing. The doctor asks if someone had entered without her noticing. Catherine, on the other hand, tries to convince him that he already had bruises from the waterfall. Meanwhile, Sebastian has seen crying in the woods, expressing his grief for taking a child's life. After confessing his crimes to God, he begins running toward the house. He then tells everyone that he and Catherine murdered Teddy and explains how they did, so he also reveals that they murdered Boris and Alexander's so that they could be together. Hearing this, Catherine argues that he's lying and claims that it was Sebastian and Anna who did it, because everyone knows that Anna gathers mushrooms and Sebastian follows her every morning. She claims Boris abused Sebastian before he died, which is enough reason to murder someone. She then pretends to cry, saying Teddy was like her own child, and Agnes comforts her by holding her hand afterward. When the police arrive to question Anna, she's unable to defend herself and accepts her fate with her eyes closed. Sebastian and Anna are taken away in a cart, likely to jail or their execution site. In the final scene, the remaining staff and Agnes also leave while Catherine remains alone in the house with her unborn child.
Subscribe for more videos like this, enable notifications,